Hello everyone and welcome back to the Podcasters Podcast. My name's Louie and today we are talking about podcast structure. What does a podcast sound like? How do you format it? What do you even do? Let's get into it. So obviously this episode's kind of a bit meta because I am recording a podcast episode about how to record a podcast episode. So what you would have just seen is the introduction to a podcast episode, and that is where we begin. Now, an introduction to an episode contains the summary of an episode. Now, if you're doing it by yourself and you have a rough idea as to what you're going to be talking about already, maybe you've planned it, maybe you've got some bullet points, then you can rattle off the introduction as a quick, sharp hook to get people engaged, just as I did just then. However, if you've got a guest and it's more of an interview thing, you might want to save recording the introduction till the end of the podcast, once you've had the entire conversation with your guest, so that you know how to, talk about what you've just spoken about, dissect it all, try and pick out the key points, and create an introduction that is really, really informative, entertaining, and sets up your guest. Obviously, then it's really important to understand your guests and know how they want to be introduced, and you can do that with them whilst they're there, whether it's at the end of the Zoom call or at the end of the interview. So that's the introduction to a podcast episode. Now we move on to more of a graphic element, if you like. What we like to do at the agency is after the introduction, we add in some sort of logo animation that comes in to really signify right now we're starting the podcast. So we start with the introduction. It can be glitchy, it can be interesting. There's usually some music underneath it. The key moments, maybe some B-roll, something like that. Especially if you've got a guest, like we say, you can add B-roll of what the guest has been up to, maybe like something flashy like cars or them on stage or whatever it is. And then you get this logo introduction, this animation, maybe the music rises up a little bit and then fades out again. This is what we call some sort of ident or insert to kind of mark a transition into the main body of the episode. Okay, so then we get into the main body of a podcast episode. Obviously, then it depends on whatever it is that you're doing. You might be doing something quite similar to what I'm doing right here, just a solo piece to camera. You might be doing an interview. But within this, you've got to kind of consider how it's going to flow, how it's going to feel, how long is it, that kind of thing. Obviously, I've said this 1,000 times before, but a solo episode is typically around 10 to 20 minutes, maybe a bit, shorter. Obviously, don't drag it on, don't drag it out. If you feel like it's coming to a natural end it, that's fine. But if you're doing an interview, it could go on for half an hour, maybe even longer. If you're doing some sort of entertainment piece, maybe like telling a story or something like that, it could go on for hours. That's okay. But what you need to consider then is, are you going to break it up in any way? Are you going to have segments? Are you going to have different moments? So maybe if you're doing an interview, you might choose to do some quick fire questions, or you might choose to break it up with like a game or something. Try and think of other podcasts that have done it really well. So I like to think of Off Menu with James Acaster and Ed Gamble. They break their podcast up into starter, main course, and dessert, don't they? So they have 3 very clear sections that they can move between with subtle audio transitions along the way, but it really keeps the pace flowing, and it allows either you in the moment with your guest or the editor to know when to wrap certain elements up and keep things going. So really consider the pace and the flow of whatever it is that you're making. Having some sort of structure will allow you to pace things properly, but will also allow you to keep the energy high. One of the main things about recording a podcast, especially if you're on your own in a room like this, is to keep the energy high. So make sure that you break things up, take a breather, take a moment, and really deliver each line with gusto, right? Obviously, if you're doing more of a talkative podcast or you want to be a bit more relaxed, it still applies, right? Find moments where you can pick things back up a little bit, because if people get too comfortable and too natural, things might slow down and get a bit boring. It all depends on what kind of content you're making for sure, but it's something to consider. Now, whilst we're talking about structure and how things can be broken up, there are tools on YouTube specifically to help you break things up. If you're uploading a video to YouTube, you can use a tool called video chapters that allows YouTube to analyze your video and break things up into chapters. So when someone's scrolling through the timeline of a video, they can see the different moments of an episode and what might pique their interest as they go along. You might find that then people skip certain bits of your video to go to more interesting bits, but it will keep them more engaged in the long term and won't stop them from dropping off. So, you want to start a podcast, but you don't know how. First of all, like and subscribe and have a look around the channel. There's lots of useful videos to help you on your way to starting, scaling, and thriving in your podcast career. Also, did you know that we run a 3-day event over here in Peterborough called the Podcast Profit System? Come join us in a room of like-minded individuals, meet the progressive team, learn how we do things, and there's a free lunch thrown in as well. All right, let's get back to the video. So we've reached about a third of the way into the podcast, and what you would have just seen is some sort of call to action. So what you can do is separately or in the moment, you can record a call to action or an advert that either promotes your content, sells something, or just asks people to like and subscribe. A call to action will then go into the first third of your podcast. So say, if it's a 10-minute episode, it will be around the 4-minute, 3-minute mark. If it's an interview, it might be, maybe 10 minutes in, something like that. But it's a reminder and a break in the pacing to really pattern interrupt the episode and ask your audience to do something. So we have call to actions on our videos, either to promote the course that we run or to get people to like and subscribe. But another thing that you can do is just include little graphics that pop up on the screen every now and again, reminding people to like and subscribe. That is a way that you can, remind people without necessarily breaking the flow, and you can add those in every couple of minutes or so, just as a reminder. Obviously, editing can come into pacing and transitions quite a lot. So think about, do you want to add any audio to create little bridges between segments? Do you want to add transitions to the video, like some swooshes or some zoom-ins or something like that? How are you going to keep it engaging for the viewer or listener? So you'll go through the whole episode and you'll start to reach the end of the episode, which is where we are now. You want to think about wrapping it up at this point. So how are you going to end an episode? Well, you need to create some sort of outro. So you might want to re-deliver some key points where you readdress certain things, or you want to remind people of those call to action points, reminding them to like, subscribe, check out our event, come work with us, come train with us, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and then you can finally wrap up the episode. So remember, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Now, we're not going to wrap up just yet, because on some platforms, particularly YouTube, there's something called an end card that comes on as the very last thing someone will see. Now, an end card is just a graphic, maybe a bit like a thing behind me with an image, and an end card contains some clickable links either to subscribe or to go on to a suggested video so that people can keep consuming your content. Now, an end card is really good to keep people in your loop. It's also good for algorithm and SEO purposes, so do make sure to create an end card and put it on your visual videos when you're uploading them. Okay, now we've reached the real end of the episode, so once again, I'll thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.